Welcome, welcome back to lesson 27. And as promised, this is the paradigm of the Hishtafel perfect. Using, for an example, the only word you will ever see in this stem, Hishtakveh, to bow down or to worship. So go ahead and say the three MS. You can read it. Hishtakveh, Hishtakvah, Hishtakvah. You can see it ends in comets hey, as do all three MS perfects in third hey roots. Think of forms like bana, he has built, asa, he has done, right? Hishtakva, he has worshipped or bowed down. It doesn't appear in the 3FS, it appears in the 2MS, Hishtakveta, Hishtakveta. 1CS, Hishtakveti, Hishtakveti. Third common plural, they have bowed down or worshipped. Hishtachvu, Hishtachvu. And y'all have bowed down. Hishtachvitem, Hishtachvitem. Now you can see this is the women are left out on this one, right? For obvious historical reasons. The forms are only in the common and masculine forms. What about the imperfect? Right? Perfect, hishtachva. Imperfect, yishtachveh. Yishtachveh, second masculine singular. Tishtachveh, first common singular. Eshtachveh, they will do thus and so. They will worship or bow down. Yishtachvu, y'all will bow down. Tishtachvu, first common plural. Nishtachveh. Right? The well-known preformatives of the imperfect. The infinitive construct, just hishtachvot. It doesn't appear in the infinitive absolute, just the infinitive construct. That ot ending that we're familiar with for third hey infinitive constructs in the kal, right? To build infinitive construct in the kal, banot. Here, hishtachvot for this third hey root. Participle, no surprise, prefix me, mishtachveh. Here you can see why Misters B, D, and B thought they had a handle on this form. They thought that it was first shin and that metathesis was going on with a mit prefix of the hithpael. Very understandable. But here, mishtachveh, mishtachvim. All right, if all of this makes you so frustrated that you want to swear, you may as well learn to do it in Hebrew. You just have to learn the oath formula, unless that's not what you meant when you said you wanted to swear. Well, let's take a look. To swear an oath in Hebrew, there are a variety of related ways of accomplishing this. So let's just start ticking them off one by one. If you see some form of the niffle of shin beit ayin to swear, there's probably an oath formula going on. Let's take a look. Nishba Adonai Elohim b'kodsho. You'll notice that here I said Adonai Elohim. Look at the pointing on the divine name here. There's the schwa at the beginning, and then there's hirek. The Masoretes are not inviting us to pronounce the divine name as Adonai here, but rather as Elohim. Why are they doing this? Because the word is preceded by the real word Adonai, and the Masoretes rightly feel that saying Adonai, Adonai sounds a little off. So when there really is the plain word Lord, Adonai, followed by the divine name Yahweh, Yahweh is not pointed as Adonai, but rather as Elohim. So here again I read, Nishba Adonai Elohim b'kodsho. My Lord Yahweh has sworn by his holiness. B'kadsho, by his holiness. Nishba. Nishba. It's the nifl perfect of Shin Beit Ayin. Why is to swear in the nifl? Well, think of the English idiom, how we will, this is really archaic English, but we might say, I swear to do thus and so, which sounds active, but we can say it just this with no difference in meaning. We might say, I am sworn to do thus and so. I am sworn to uphold the law, right? There's a passive sense there. I am sworn, which for us means the same thing as I swear. So it is in the Hebrew that the normal form of Shabbat of Shin Beit Ayin is nifl, passive. Literally, my Lord Yahweh is sworn by his holiness. But he's not sworn by somebody else. He is sworn by himself. He swears to do it. And then after this, you would get the oath. My Lord Yahweh has sworn by his holiness, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you'll get the content of the oath. Similarly here, Nishbata Baronai Elohecha. You are sworn, right? Nifl perfect, second masculine singular. Nishbata, you are sworn by Yahweh your God. And then you get the content of the oath. You are sworn by Yahweh your God to do this, this, and this. Something else you might see is the formula chai so-and-so. It's from the root chet yod he, to live, and it probably means as so-and-so lives. Sometimes it's translated by the life of so-and-so, as if you swear by the life of so-and-so. So let's look at some examples. Chai Adonai, as Yahweh lives. Chai Elohim, as God lives. Chai Ani, as I live. Chai Nafshecha, literally, as yourself lives, as your life lives, perhaps by your life. Some of these are che instead of chai, with no difference in meaning. Che Pharaoh, as Pharaoh lives, or perhaps by Pharaoh's life. In any case, you'll get this and then the content of the oath. As God lives, I will win this battle and not lose it, or protect you and not let you suffer, or whatever it is. Or you may see this formula. Listen to how it goes. Ko Ya'aseh, divine name, v'ko Yosif. Ko Ya'aseh, divine name. Thus the divine name will do. Thus Yahweh will do, or whoever, or thus God will do, or whatever it says. Ko Ya'aseh Adonai, for example, thus Yahweh will do, v'ko Yosif, and thus more, and thus in addition, Yosif. This derives from a particular setting in life where, in the making of an oath, the person swearing the oath would take an animal and cut the animal in half and say, thus may God do to me and more also, if I do not do thus and so. Right? So if I swear to protect you, I might say, Ko Ya'aseh v'ko Yosif, thus may the God do to me and more besides, if I do not protect you. This would be the full form of the oath. And what happens is that this introductory formula just takes on a life of its own and precedes the oath. Ko Ya'aseh Adonai v'ko Yosef, thus may God do and more also, even though you're not cutting an animal in half, because everyone knows what it means. If that gives you a headache, just pause and think on it for a second, and then come on back and continue. We'll see what this looks like in action. Ko Ya'aseh Adonai v'ko Yosef, thus Yahweh will do, and more also. Or, Ko Ya'aseh Elohim v'ko Yosef, thus will God do, and more also, or more besides, or whatever, however you translate that. So any of those might introduce the oath. A niffle of Shema, to swear, I am sworn, or you are sworn. A form of chai so-and-so, as so-and-so lives. Or the formula, thus may the God do and more also. Any of those might introduce the oath, the content of the oath. Then we get to the content or the substance of the oath. Positive, depending on the introduction, the positive oath may be introduced by ki, or ki-im, or im lo. Note the negative there, and you'll see in a minute why that is. Nishba Adonai Elohim b'kadsho, my Lord Yahweh is sworn by his holiness, ki, that, and then we get the content of the oath. Hine yamim ba'im olechem. Behold, days are coming upon you. Okay? In English, we have a rigorous distinction between direct speech and indirect speech. We might say, my Lord Yahweh swears by his holiness, the days are coming upon you. Then we don't translate the ki. Or we could translate it as indirect discourse. My Lord Yahweh swears by his holiness that the days are coming upon you. Right? Hebrew does not make such a firm distinction, at least not in the way that we do, between direct representation of discourse and indirect representation of discourse. So you decide how you're going to translate it, and then you may or may not translate the ki. My Lord Yahweh swears by his holiness that the days are coming upon you. Or, my Lord Yahweh swears by his holiness, the days are coming upon you. And in the second introduction formula, let's take a look. Chai Adonai, as Yahweh lives, ki im Adonai yigafenu. Yahweh will smite him. We've said before that ki im is normally translated rather. Here that doesn't quite work, although it's not wholly nonsensical, but you won't translate it that way for sensible English. As Yahweh lives, rather Yahweh will smite him. The ki-im might function here for emphasis. That is, as Yahweh lives, things will not be as they currently appear, but rather, I swear, Yahweh will smite him. That may be the sense, but again, you're going to translate it in a way that simply works. Now finally, look what happens when we have the thus may Yahweh do and more also, right? Ko ya'aseh li Elohim v'ko Yosef. Thus may God do to me and add more. Im lo sar tzava tihyeh. If you do not become commander of the army. That's the literal translation. And it makes sense. May Yahweh cut me in half like this bird if you do not become commander of the army. I'm swearing to you that you will become commander of the army. May Yahweh do this terrible thing to me if you do not. Most translations are going to simply find some way of rendering it positively. I swear that you will surely become commander of the army. Some will translate it in a way that I find completely nonsensical, as here. Thus will God do to me and add more. You will surely become commander of the army. Well, that just makes no sense at all. The problem is that no, there is no problem. That's just the way Hebrew does it. So you will have to decide. If you translate it, thus will God do to me and more also if you do not become commander of the army, you might have to have a footnote explaining things to your hearer, or you might have to take a minute and explain what this oath form derives from so that it makes sense. If you don't want to mess around with that, just translate it positively. Just paraphrase it. I swear you will surely become commander of the army. Another example. Now this one kind of mixes forms. Look at Numbers 14:28. Chai ani, as I live. If not, just as you have spoken in my ears, thus I will do to you. Oh my gracious. So somebody has said that they're going to do something bad to me. And I'm saying, no, no, no. I'm going to do that bad thing to you. I use the im lo formula, if not, because I'm presupposing the formula, may God do thus to me and more besides. But that part of the formula is so well understood, it's so implicit, that I feel I can skip it and just use the words, if I don't do that to you. We do something similar in English, just mostly when we're yelling at our kids. Imagine a parent saying to their child, if you don't turn down that television. And they just stop there. Well, the child knows what that means. It means turn down that television, even though it's expressed with a negative term. If you don't turn down that television. What's unspoken is the threat. I'll come in and spank you to death, young man, or whatever it is, right? Just so the threat in this utterance is implied and doesn't have to be said, right? So somebody has just threatened me with some violence, and I say, ho, 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 as I live, if I don't do the same to you. That is, I will do the same to you. It's as if to say, I'll be damned if I don't do the same thing to you. What if the oath is negative? What if we're promising that something won't happen? Well, then it looks like this. Nishbati levet Eli. I swear with regard to the house of Eli. You see that niffle form of Shabbat. I am sworn with regard to the house of Eli. Im yit kafer avon beit Eli. If the guilt of the house of Levi will be expiated. See, here we have a hithpael, form of kafar, to expiate. It's reflexive or passive, passive really in this case. So the oath is prepared. I swear by the house with regard to the house of Eli. And then we get the content of the oath. And again, the thus may God do to me and more besides is simply left implicit. If the guilt of the house of Eli be expiated, I will be damned, is the idea. Just as in the example with our mother, whereas before she said, if you don't turn down that TV, using a negative element to express a positive, that is, turn down that TV. In this case, mom is using no negative to tell you not to do something. If you touch that dial, young man, what does it mean when mom says that? It means a negative. When she says, if you touch that dial, what she means is, don't touch that dial. Again, the form makes sense if you realize that the threat is being left in the ellipses. Chai faro im tetza'u mizeh. As Pharaoh lives, or by the life of Pharaoh, as Pharaoh lives, im tetza'u mizeh, if you shall depart from here. That's the literal form. As Pharaoh lives, if you shall depart from here. That is, if you shall depart from here, I'll be damned. That is, I swear you shall not depart from here. May God do thus to me and more besides, if you do. I'm that confident that you shall not depart from here. Ko ya'aseh, and here we go. Now it's not implicit, it's right in there. Ko ya'aseh lecha Elohim v'ko Yosef. Thus may God do to me and more besides, if you shall hide a thing from me. Im tukached mimeni davar. If you shall hide from me a thing. What does that mean? You shall not hide anything from me. Right? So you have to decide, do you want to translate it? I wouldn't translate it as it is here, not in the italics. That is, I would not translate it, thus will God do to you and more, also you shall not hide anything from me, because I think that doesn't make as much sense as it might. It's either translate it just by what it means. Well, either translate it just as it says. Thus will God do to you and more besides, if you shall hide anything from me. And then you would have to explain what this discourse is accomplishing. Or if you don't want to be bothered explaining the oath formula, just cut it out and just paraphrase the oath. I swear that you shall not hide anything from me, or something like that. That's my suggestion. Chai ani ki kala ha-she'ur hazeh. As I live, this lesson is surely completed. Take a look at the examples in your grammar of the oath formula. There are many examples there, and they're good ones out of biblical texts. Take your time and get a feel for what's going on in the oath formula. Like so many things in life, the oath formula is really, really easy after you already understand it and understand its variations. So go ahead and just go through those. And as you've seen already, the hithpael is really easy. You will recognize it when you see it, except for a few vexing forms that you'll hit a handful of times in your life. All right? So, well done. And we will see you next time for a combo lesson. 28 next time, and then a combo lesson of 29:30.